Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Thinnest Veil podcast. I am just super ridiculously excited for our guest today. And I found out about him from a podcast that I listened to um, and just was so moved by his story. I wanted to bring a conversation to all of you. So, with no further ado, I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself, my friend.
Hello, listener, wherever you are in the world. I'm very happy that you're here. My name is Cesar Cardona. I am a public speaker and a mindfulness meditation guide. Full
And
stop.
a podcaster.
Oh,
And
thank you. My goodness, my goodness. Thanks for reminding me. I am also the host of the podcast Beauty in the Break.
Mm.
I am co-host of it. It is stories about resilience and the beautiful things that occur unexpectedly after the times that break us and what feel like are the worst parts of our lives.
Yeah, and I wanted to start our conversation today by talking about um, the things that break us for just a minute. There are lots of experiences throughout my life, and I think this is why your story resonated with me so much, that have broken me and just left me thinking that there's nothing else left. And I've recently very much been reflecting on just how remarkable it is that I have built this life. I find it really stunning that I'm still here on the planet and that my life is so full of love and joy and adventure and all of these incredible things that are happening. And I have really been reflecting on this idea that if at any point in my journey I would have stopped or given up or thought, well, this is it, or let the things that happen to me truly break me and have me just give up, I would not be living in this beautiful and amazing experience that I'm having here on the planet. And I'm wondering if you could talk not just about how this idea of moving through the things that have broken you has created the life that you're living, but what do you want people to know about what it means to continue on, even in the face of deep adversity?
Yeah, there are two questions, two great questions. The first thing, and I'll answer the last one first.
Yeah.
The first thing is that any person listening, whoever you are, wherever you are, the darkness that you find yourself into is as dark as you are experiencing it. Probably
Mm,
worse than you're even aware of it. It is horrible. It is terrible. It does feel like it can't get any worse. It also might not even be able to get worse. In no way am I here to invalidate any of that because whatever you feel, you're right. It sucks. And that's an understatement. And, not but, and I will add that on the other side of that is a constant light, a
mm,
constant illumination, a constant understanding, a constant piecing together the broken parts.
mm,
You get your hand dirty in the soil, but the flower eventually breaks through and grows.
mhm,
Your job is to maintain as best as you can with whatever allies in the world that you have and recognize that you have what it takes already within you to get to that other side. There's a story. I have this tattoo on my wrist. It is a key signature of E flat major C minor. They're relative keys, and I had that tattooed on me because that is the key signature of the Third Symphony of Ludwig van Beethoven. And I've been a huge Beethoven fan my entire life. Beethoven in his 20s, during a time in the world where what your one career was who you were. So if you're a composer, you're a composer. You don't side gig and wait tables at Porky's Diner on Sherman Oaks Way. um, you just were a musician. So imagine this man in his mid 20s gaining fame, getting more popular. Think of any musician you know right now that's that's not fully popular, but getting there. And then all of a sudden, they go deaf. The entire society questioned him. They started getting suspicious that he was becoming deaf, and he decided that he was going to go to a place called Heiligenstadt and kill himself.
Mm,
He wrote a letter to his brothers called the Heiligenstadt Testament in a sort of quasi goodbye note to
mm,
his brothers.
mhm,
And through that, you can read and see the psychological determination that he was working with. He was trying to break through. He, in return, did not self harm.
mhm,
And he wrote, and excuse me, he finished and completed the third symphony in this key signature. He called it the Heroic Symphony
mhm,
for the journey that we have to go through. But what's more is that that symphony now is seen as one of the key elements of the change between the classical era and the romantic era.
mhm,
So let's go back to him in his home, in his little space he was sleeping in Heiligenstadt, when he thought about his life was done. He had no clue that today, 200 years later, 250 years later, we would still be saying da 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 dun 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 dun. That's the Fifth Symphony. Or
mhm,
ba da 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 da. That's the Ninth Symphony.
mhm,
Would have never happened if he did not understand the continuity of his natural strength.
mhm,
And you listening, whoever you are, you have that natural strength already.
mhm,
You are already there. Your job is to maintain, hold as best you can, gather those allies and friends, and persist.
mhm.
For the first question, for me in my life, the breaking points for me have been numerous because apparently I was hard headed. There was breaking, but there wasn't shattering.
I understand.
Yeah. It was just, where do you want me to start? That's probably where I.
Wherever you want, wherever you're being called to start, whatever story you want to share.
Yeah. So the very first thing that comes to me very often is who I am as a person, who I've always been as a person because of my upbringing. One, I was raised by a New Yorker Spanish father and a Floridian black mother.
Mm,
Those two opposites, if they're not enough for you, one was a Republican, the other was a Democrat.
oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, and then on top of all that, what they did have in common was aggression.
Mm,
They showed it in different ways, but the two had a way of being aggressive. And I picked up on that aggression while feeling like I didn't fit in either side of the family. Because the Spanish side of the family, some of them would belittle me for not speaking Spanish.
mm,
They would, one in particular would hold me down and squeeze my nose because they
mm,
were trying to make my nose pointy like a white person. And then on the black side of my family, I talked too white.
mm,
Didn't understand why I liked Jimi Hendrix.
mm.
So of course I didn't tell them that I love Beethoven because that's too far.
No, that would have really messed
Way,
it up.
way too much,
Yep.
right? But what I did take from that was Caesar, this is who we are. Caesar, this is who you're not.
Mm,
And from there, I didn't have an understanding of who I needed to be. I also didn't look like them. I
mm,
wasn't dark enough to one side. I was too dark to the Spanish side because they're Colombian and Spain, so they're very fair
right.
skinned.
Yeah.
Mix that in with anger. And then one morning, excuse me, it's then one evening, after my parents had split already, I was 4 or 5 years old. I was with one parent, sitting on their lap, watching television, and the other one shows up. I hadn't seen them in a while. They barged in, grabbed my arm, and tried to take me with them.
Mm,
Now, the first parent that I was with didn't like it so much, so they grabbed my legs and pulled back. And so, over the yelling, over the screaming, over the threatening, my body was a physical tug of war.
yeah.
That was probably my most impactful breaking moment. I don't think it was the first, but that was the first impactful breaking moment for
Hmm.
me
Hmm.
because I didn't feel like either of them. And then I got this tug of war of who I'm supposed to be.
Right.
And then it came with trauma. So I grew up with that identity of I don't fit in and I'm angry about it. That was probably my first breaking moment.
You know what I really love about what you said is I never fit in either. Um, I was this my dad I grew up in Utah. My dad committed suicide when I was 6, which was my first breaking moment. Um, but we weren't Mormon anymore after my dad died. And so that was really, really, when you're a little kid growing up in a predominantly religious space and you're not part of the religion. Plus, my mom she left the church, she started drinking, she started smoking, she started
Uh,
doing drugs. Like my mom did a full 180 when my dad died. I'm part Native American. And my dad was Native American. And so I also couldn't talk about that at all. Um, and it wasn't really until like a couple of years ago that my mom acknowledged how detrimental that was to me. But I would get really dark in the summer, right? And I'd lighten up throughout the winter, but I'd get really dark in the summer and I had this white blonde hair and I never could figure out who I was. And um, that's why I find it so remarkable that I am who I am because it has been this beautiful and incredible journey. And I really think that, I mean, you have this physical representation of the tug of war, but I think the thing, not and I think the thing that people struggle with is that this whole entire culture is set up for us to be in a constant push and pull and back and forth with ourselves because none of us really ever fit in all of the places and all of the spaces. And I what I love about listening to you talk is thinking about living in the both and. So often, especially when we are dealing with trauma and addiction, all of us are dealing with all of these big, heavy things. We get, we have this need for certainty. I see it with what we expect in our leaders, um, especially because I'm running for Congress. And people expect me to be an expert in all the things. And I don't have all the answers. That's why I'm running, is because I want to build community and build spaces of community and
yeah.
connection around each other. Talk to me more about the both and, like being in the both and instead of the either or. Like what happens in our lives when we allow ourselves to dig deep into being in the both and?
Yeah. Well, to fast forward to get to that part, I realized later in my life, especially around my 30s, probably at 30, when I became a Buddhist, when I started practicing more Buddhism, it calmed my thoughts down. And I started to realize that I wasn't required to be a part of any particular tribe, quote unquote, so I could
Hmm.
be among all of them.
Hmm.
And that was a blessing.
Yeah.
But 30 years of saying, where do I fit in? Spending time in all these different ways of living and thoughts and cultures and styles. I ended up picking pieces from all of them.
Hmm.
And then what's more is that not only that I realize I'm not with any, but I'm among all, was the time that I spent with every one of them, I started finding that they were just like the opposite side too.
Mm.
As much as it doesn't seem so on the surface, as much as the news, as much as film, as much as movies, as much as stories like to show tension and friction, there is so much more of similarity that just underlines every one of us as individuals,
Mm.
deeper than
Mm.
or just as deep or deeper than the fact that we all want to feel safe, we all want to feel loved, we all want shelter, we want to feel community, and we want to pass on something in our lives, whether it's our knowledge, our story to someone else as like a student or community or business, or directly to children.
Mhm,
We all want these same things. We
mhm,
all look for the mystery in the world of what is this? How can we be here? We all give it an answer. We paint it in whatever way we want. As soon
mhm,
as we start showing and concretizing our answer to another one is when the problems come.
mm. Yeah.
But the both and or the yes and about something is the realization that everything you are doesn't take doesn't lose any space when somebody else is the opposite.
Oh, God, say more about that, please.
Every single thing you are does not have to, and by default it doesn't, take up space from the other opposite, and vice versa. Whatever they are is not necessarily affecting you. Now, we go into the world and we assume we're going to lose these things because a whole different way of living in this society, a different culture, belief, political, gender, whatever is threatening us. But let us let us observe that for a minute and let us
Mm,
see how much space there is in this society for us.
mm,
There's so much space for us. It's almost inevitable. Every individual on their own is a multitude of things. Whoever you are listening here, you are, I'm going to assume, uh, uh, a certain gender. You are also an employee of something. You are some sort of caregiver, either a parent or of a parent. You teach something. You are a friend. You
mm,
are a neighbor. You are a multitude of things. You are a believer in this thing. You are a rejecter of the other thing. You hold a multitude of hats. Tell me how you can't hold one hat that says, I'm going to allow space to the other person.
I love that so much.
Thank you for saying that. There is, and to be more practical with it, it's actually just easier, honestly. It's just easier. We, you know how, you know how easy it is for me to listen to somebody talk about whatever they are, and I say, I don't agree with this. It's easier for me to go, okay, fair enough. And now removed my pressure and of the expectation of me trying to change their mind because you're not going to change somebody's mind if you start yanking them to the other side. I think I've already figured that out in that tug of war when I was 4 years old. That's not how it works. You meet the person right where they are.
Mm,
And that means you have to understand them. And understanding somebody does not mean you agree with them.
mm, mm,
You can understand them. And when you understand them, you can meet them where they are. And that's how you walk them to another step closer to you.
mhm.
And two people listening to this right now are on the very opposite
Yeah,
of the way they see life. And
yes,
if they both can do that, we will find ourselves in this middle ground. And that's by saying and instead of but.
yes, yes. And what I love about that, I talk about our shared humanness all the time. And I talk about how none of us has any idea what we're doing. Like we're like I have this visual that downloaded to me one day that we're like, the bumper cars at the fair,
Yeah.
bumper cars,
Yes.
right? Like that we are all in the bumper cars of life. And some of us are like slamming into somebody, like we're just going for it. And then there's the other person off in the dead spin that just can't get out of the bumper car spin.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then there's someone that's just happily going around. They're just going in their happy little circle. And then you've got the helper who like gets out of the bumper car and goes helps the person out of the dead spin, right? And like, but we're just bumbling around in these bumper cars of life and none of us have a clue.
It's marvelous.
Isn't that good? I know.
It's
When that
marvelous.
downloaded, I was like, oh, thank you.
May I use that? And
Oh, please use
all
it.
right, I will always
Please
quote
use
you.
it, Caesar. Please
I
use
will
it.
quote
Because
you every time. That is fantastic.
But it's so true. Like we are all just kind of trying to figure out what this human existence is.
Mhm.
And the more we recognize our shared humanity, the more I love what you said about just looking at someone and instead of saying, no, I don't agree with you, saying, huh, well, that's a really interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
Never thought about it that way before.
Yeah.
Because most of us haven't.
They have not. That we have not, and we've concretized what we believe, and we've identified with what we believe. But
Mhm.
let's not forget that at some point you believe something else, and you identify with that. So it changed. So
Yeah.
can you also change to be a person who doesn't identify with those things? You just hold it. You don't have to become it. The shirt I'm wearing is not who I am. It's what I wear, and I take it off at some point, and I switch. That's life. That's the
Yeah.
inevitable change.
Yeah.
There was a time, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, maybe a little longer, I made a conscious habit of when I would hear something that I didn't agree with, I
Mm.
made a conscious habit of instead of going straight to judgment, I started saying, I wonder how they got to that conclusion.
Oh, I wonder is my favorite statement.
Yeah. Or instead of saying like that is dumb, it's like, oh, that's interesting. Just saying that change of word opens you up to just getting a little more. You don't got to agree with it. I gotta say, most things in the world I don't agree with. I'm a pretty simple, like, way about life. But my gosh, okay, great. They seem happy. They seem peaceful. The moment
Yeah.
that you stop being that way, there's a different
Yeah.
conversation to be had. But if you're happy and peaceful, okay, fantastic. We can do that. And for the most part, the third thing here, Hinlon's razor. Most times people do something that hurt you or upset you. For the most part, they're doing it out of incompetence or being naive about it or
Mhm.
unaware that they're doing it. Most
Yeah.
people don't go in the world and say, I'm going to go and just ruin that person's day. On average, they don't even know what they're doing and they're not even aware of it. Seldom are they aware of their own selves sometimes, and that is okay.
Mhm.
But for you to hold on to that and be rigid about the differences,
Yeah.
you are not going to affect them. You're
Mhm.
only affecting yourself.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So I want to talk a little bit about your musical journey.
Oh gosh, okay.
Mhm. Because for me, music is really important to me. I did grow up playing the piano, not well, but I grew up playing the piano, and it was the thing I did when I was either waiting for someone to come and hang out with me, or I was waiting to leave, or I had all the chaos happening in my family. I would just go play the piano. And I listened to a wide range of music. Metallica will always be my most favorite band. I literally joke that I meditate to Metallica because it's
Right on.
it actually calms me down.
Cool.
If you're out here listening, you guys, like Metallica, if you happen upon this, know
Yes.
that I'm your biggest fan.
Come on,
But
Lawrence.
there's like, come on, Lars. There's this thing that happens with music, and I've recently, my youngest son is turning 15, and he plays the organ, and he also plays the piano. And recently, his organ teacher was getting a little frustrated because Sean didn't really want to practice, and so he told Sean to start improvising, just start playing whatever comes. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting upstairs and I'm thinking, is Sean playing George Winston? Like, what's happening right now? And it was just coming out of him. And I thought, oh, he does not know because he's a 14-year-old teenage boy. He does not know that not everyone can do that.
Mm,
He
hmm
doesn't know
hmm
the blessing of what he is capable of. And
hmm
my daughter plays the bass and she just jams out on the bass, and music is just such a core part of our family. And I'm wondering how this musical journey has taken you. Where has it taken you, and where have you gone with it, and how has it impacted the way you connect to yourself and your community spiritually and physically and emotionally?
Oh, well, first thing first, good on his organist teacher.
Mhm,
The organist teacher, he
mhm.
did literal the breaking through. He broke it. Like, this is what you've been assuming. Let's break that. Do something different. Shake
Yeah,
it up. See what you get.
yeah,
Good on him. That's fantastic.
yeah.
And then secondly, oh God, please tell him. I'm sure you have already, but please tell him most people can't do that. That no, I'm sure you have. Oh, it's good. It's good stuff. It's good.
Mhm,
I like that. I love that thought that you said that. For me, music has consistently been this. Uh, it sounds obvious to say this, but the soundtrack of the human experience, and I mean that beyond what I'm saying. Songs are about stuff that we all feel, yes, without question. But there's those songs that just keep coming back to you over and over again. There's those
mhm,
albums or musicians or bands or composers that sit with you just for a season, and then that's that.
mhm,
For me, when I was growing up, when I was a kid, 4, 5, 6, 7, my father's family lived in New York, and they lived in a place called they lived in Queens, and one lived in Manhattan, and they moved around, but the main house was in a place called Massapequa, Long Island, and this house was a huge, huge house. It was the house that the farmer owned when everything else was just farm back
mhm,
in forever ago. And it was my grandmother, my grandfather, and the two youngest kids. They both were my aunts. Now, the youngest one, she played the piano, the violin, and she sang opera. She played Carnegie Hall when she was young. She played, I think, twice. She was so young that she didn't even recognize how important it was.
Mhm.
Because this house is massive, and because the house was old, and because the house was ran by my, at that time, I don't know, 65-year-old grandmother from Colombia, when it would storm and thunder, she would freak out and say, "Turn the lights off."
Mhm.
You'd have to say, and she would say, "Light the candles." And we light all these candles in this old house, and they had all these old vintage, like romantic or Victorian Span era Spanish style paintings everywhere, with candles lit. And then my aunt would go and play Beethoven. She'd go and play Joseph Haydn. She'd play Mozart. And and this they tell this story still, would go stand at 4 or 5 years old at her piano, and then while standing up listening, I would fall asleep standing up while listening to it. And that is clearly where my affinity for Beethoven came. At the same, everything apparently starts at this house because I got like three things that I'm holding on to here while I'm telling this story. At the same time, the tug of war sort of battle happened in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, with my parents. Therefore, New York was a little safer. Very
Yeah.
often, like I said, things were happening to me from my family there, but at the very least, I had some space. I could go outside. Nobody was trying to kidnap me. There was no police being called, and I had more space. And I would go outside, and one day, about 4 or 5, I heard the sound of this gust of wind blowing through the trees.
Mm.
Completely encapsulated me, just mesmerized me. I had no clue what this meant, but it took me completely away. I felt, for once in my life, at one with all things. Thirdly, at this house, my grandmother had all these VHSs, and one of them was Forrest Gump.
Mhm.
And I would go and watch the movie. And at this time, I am 6,
Mhm.
7, 5, whatever, 5, 6, 7. The movie's out on VHS, and I thought all the music in the movie was they wrote those songs for the movie. So
Oh,
they're playing the Doors and the
yeah.
Beatles and the Birds and then all this stuff, right? And they're playing Jimi Hendrix, and
Yeah.
there's a scene where they have the this wide shot, this helicopter shot of them going into Vietnam, and behind it is Jimi Hendrix is all along the watchtower.
Oh, yeah.
And at that age, I was just infatuated with that. What do they play? 15 seconds of that song? I loved it. I would fast forward the VHS to that scene so I could hear the music, hold it in my head, and replay that 15-second clip over and over again, still thinking that it's just score music. And then I would go outside and experience that feeling of the wind through the trees, which, by the way, there's a word for it. It's called Scytherism.
Yes.
And fast forward to about, what is that? About 8 years later, I am in my mother. My mother, she started. We got much closer in my teenage years, just to kind of keep catch you up. And she became a whole different person and started changing and just becoming more in my life. And to this day, she's still one of my best friends, and she always has my back in everything. She bought
Mhm.
me a shirt that said Hendrix on it with a guitar. I
Mhm.
knew nothing about who this person was, and I realized I'm not going to wear a shirt of some name that I don't know who this is. So I went and bought a CD of the Smash Hits. It's the album, it's a black album with three of him on it.
I have it.
The back of the CD is on like some horses with Mitch Mitchell and Neil
Yes.
Reddy.
Yes.
And so I play that, and I think like two songs in, All Along the Watchtower plays, and
Mhm.
I get a flood of emotions from when I was younger.
Mhm.
All of this rapture of being connected to safety and purity and oneness comes together for me.
Mhm.
And I already had Beethoven, so then I had Jimi Hendrix after that. And
Mhm.
now, on surface, you would assume these are very opposite musicians. And
Oh.
technically, they could be, obviously. But underlying, they're saying the same exact thing.
Mhm.
And under it all, their way of composing is quite similar. I've heard, I forget who it was, but there was an orchestra, a quartet, excuse me, that did Jimi Hendrix's "Axis Bold as Love" album just in string quartets.
Oh
And
my, I have to hear that.
I'll find it, I'll send it to you.
Oh,
And
thank you.
you can hear the chord progressions fitting almost better on strings.
Oh, I bet.
The articulation is so much better.
Oh, I bet.
And so I got those and I hear this man and I go, okay, I gotta pick up an instrument. And again, little did I know, I don't have any lessons. I'm just teaching myself how to play guitar. And once I got quick enough with my dexterity, I would listen to his songs, the simpler ones, and learn by ear what he's doing, bit
Mhm,
by bit by bit. And he's a very complex player.
mhm.
And that kept going until I was able to play really well. And then I started playing shows as a musician. And then I found Jeff Buckley. And
Oh,
that changed everything. Because
mhm.
somehow he was the tie-in between those two sides. There's a rock and rollness about him, and then there's like
Yeah.
a symphonicness about him. And I'm hoping this has answered your question because I heard it both ways. My experience as a musician with music and me just loving music. From there, I taught myself how to sing, how to write songs, as best as one can, of course. And in Jacksonville, Florida, I won a singer-songwriter award. I was on a morning news show in Jacksonville, Florida. That's still on YouTube somewhere. It's Cesar Cardona and First Coast Living, and there's me playing there. I'm 21. I think I just bought my house, and I was like a little boy with short hair and playing all these songs. And that got me through so much of my trauma. At the time, that was the thing that kind of pulled me through. And I found all these other great musicians. I found Josh Rouse, he helped me get through an entire bout of depression for a year. He always made me feel better when I was depressed. And then I noticed that that was happening. So then I would just play his music when I was feeling down or when I wasn't feeling down, and it would activate joy. And he helped me
Mhm.
get out of it. And his music is phenomenal. Josh Rouse, Rouse, highly recommended to any person who wants that sort of like tender, the good life kind of feel. It's
Mhm.
very beautiful. He's a beautiful man. I've met him multiple times. He follows me on Instagram now, even. It's just phenomenal. It's great.
Oh, yay.
But to wrap it up and to come back to this, to back to the original question is what I started feeling from that music and from the sound of the wind through the trees were the same thing.
Mhm.
And and that's what kept me safe and sane. Those are both, I'm using those words not as specific as possible because I often wasn't safe and often wasn't sane. But what kept me going,
Mm.
what still was my compass, even during the worst times of my life, was that feeling that came from music.
Yeah.
That stuck with me. And
Yeah.
if you can capture that and take the seed from it and try to plant it in the garden or the soil of every other part of your life, that feeling, you will find that there is a vastness to this human experience. And at some point, you become it, the vastness itself.
Yeah. Mm. The thing that I love about what you said and what I'm hoping people are able to like start to play with and wonder about and get curious about is I love the wind too. I love the wind. I
Mhm.
love listening to wind. My favorite sound in the whole world is the sound of the aspen trees in Utah. When the wind goes through, they click. They make a click.
Oh, wow.
It's such a beautiful sound. And what I'm hoping people will explore and play with from what you were just talking about is this idea that there are threads woven through our human experience, right? Like the wind and Beethoven and Hendrix. And that's why I love that I listen to Metallica and, George Winston, right? Like, and they both make me feel the same way,
Uh-huh.
right? They That's that thread of humanity and humanness where when we find the thing that makes us feel elated, makes us feel comfort, makes us feel connected to our bodies and the land and the air. There's that thread that gets pulled through the middle of us too, where we're connected to the divine and grounded and rooted in the earth. And when we notice it, it happens more often. When we pay attention to that feeling, it actually happens more often. Oh, I've just got the full body chills. It's so good. I remember the first time I heard a Hendrix. I remember exactly where I was standing, and I was
Please
like,
tell me.
"What is this?
That's
What is this that's happening right now?"
You happen to remember the song by chance?
It was it was on Electric Ladyland. I know that.
Oh gosh. Okay. I mean, that could be anything.
I know that because my friend Layla Solomon gave me a mixtape. We went
Oh
to high
wow.
school together.
Okay.
Wait, it was in
Cool.
eighth grade. I know it was in eighth grade. She
That
gave it.
that album is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. So, uh, um, before we start to wrap things up, because I don't want to, I mean, you and I could sit here all day, honestly, but I don't want to.
Uh, and just FYI, I have enough time. If you want to
Oh,
go
good.
longer, I'm here
Okay.
for it.
Great. Well, that's fabulous.
Great. I got the timer totally good here.
Great. I want I want to spend some moments talking about our spiritual journeys. One of the things that really resonated with me when I heard your interview, um, one of the things that really resonated with me is I have a very complicated relationship with my spiritual journey. I mean, it's not that complicated anymore, but boy, did I try and make it complicated about 8 years ago when I started going down the path I have been on. And many people who listen to this podcast know that I am a lay preacher in the Episcopal Church. And I did not come to the church willingly, actually. My daughter wanted to go to church, my oldest daughter. And I was like, not on a cold day in hell will you ever catch me in a church. And I'm, I'm pagan. I read tarot, I practice witchcraft, I follow indigenous ceremony. And, I thought, I'm not going to church. And she kept begging. Like she kept begging to go to church. And I finally ended up calling some friends in Laguna Beach, actually, and I
Hmm.
said, "I need you to find me a church that is LGBTQ affirming and feminist,
Mhm.
because Katie wants to go to church, and I gotta take her to church." So, my friend ended up getting in touch with all these churches and, found one happened to be in our town. I told him he had a wide radius, and of course, it ended up being here in Corvallis. And the first time we went to church, we all got dressed. I was like, everybody's got to dress in their Sunday best because you can take the girl out of Utah, but you can't take the Utah out of the girl. And we were all in our Sunday best. And we walked into this church, and this beautiful woman named Phyllis greeted us at the door. And I have never felt more at home as I did at that moment.
Mhm.
Phyllis is amazing. And I thought, oh no, these people are nice. Because
Ah.
I'm still waiting to be set on fire,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm shaking.
Mhm.
My husband's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna be okay." And basically what ended up happening is every Sunday for the next 3 months, I would sit there and sob, like
Wow.
ugly tears, snot, ugly cry,
You know all the stuff you've
filled
been holding back.
filled with a light that I have never felt in my life. And I
Mm.
was like, "What is happening?" Jim's
Mhm.
like, "Let's sleep in today." I was like, "No, we're going to church." And he's like, "I don't understand what's going on with you, Missy." I'm like, "I don't know either. I don't know what's happening." And eventually I ended up getting asked to preach. And I was like, "You don't want me up there on that pulpit. Like I'm like this queer feminist, native person. Like what are you putting me on a pulpit in a Christian church for?" And they're like, "That's why. Like
Yeah.
'cause you have this voice and people need to hear your message." And I'm like, no." And of course I did. And now I preach all over, and the things that have happened because I allowed myself to be open. I thought I had to choose. I thought I had to pick. And when I realized that I am love, oh, it makes me cry. That I am love and I am loved, and there is not a human being on this planet that can take that away from me. That that I am love embodied, and I am here to be love embodied, and no one can take that from me.
Oh.
And on my spiritual journey, I happened to learn that in the Episcopal Church, like, that happened to be the vessel for me.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm wondering if you could talk a bit about your spiritual journey and what took you, uh, to the place that you're at now, and if you hear any similarities in what I'm talking about that opening and that connection.
Absolutely. 110,000%. First thing first, my very first talk I ever gave as a public speaker is called The Thread That Connects Us All.
Mm,
So I'm talking about Theseus and the Minotaur, where he goes into the Greek myth, where he goes into the labyrinth, and Ariadne gives him that thread to bring himself back out of it. There's Christianity, where one of Jesus's ancestors, I always forget the name of this one, but it's his direct ancestor is Phares, and the other one's name means light. Phares means to breach through. They were twins. When they were born, uh, out the hand first, excuse me, one of the child's hands comes out first, and the midwife ties around his wrist a red thread.
oh yeah, the red thread.
A
Yeah.
red thread.
Mhm.
And that's the Old Testament, and it's talking about it links up to Jesus as your New Testament. In Native American myth, there's that story of the old woman who weaves the world,
Yes.
and she weaves it together, and sometimes she gets a little tired, and when she gets tired, that's when calamity happens, so she goes back to it and weaves a little more and weaves a little more. There's Norse. In the Norse myth, those three women who have that string of your life and they cut it where it ends, and that they're called the Fates.
Yes.
In Hinduism, there is Indra's net, the net of gems, where we are, it's a metaphor where we are all gems tied by a net that connects. And if you look in one gem, you see the reflection of all the gems surrounding it. That's the connection that we all share. In modern life, you and I are connected here by way of something called the internet.
Mhm.
We understand that now, because of this connection, how much we matter to each other because we are made of matter. And
Mhm.
matter itself is broken down into molecules and quarks and protons. And if you get even smaller than the quarks, there's these little vibrations. That is what we're all made of, beyond the molecules and the atoms. And that study about that is called string theory.
Yes.
So the symbol is always there showing us how connected we are. The ability to be able to recognize that unity, to be able to not be concretized into what you believe,
Yeah.
is one of the beautiful tenets of Buddhism that I love so much. I'm going to put a pin right in there and walk myself right back to that moment because I grew up as a Christian
Mhm.
in the South as a mixed man,
Mm,
mixed boy who was his sexuality, but
mm,
saw every single person was belittled if they were gay. So I kept that to myself.
mm.
By the time I was 18, after some more breaking moments happened in my life, I became an atheist. It's a strict, militant, devout, if I may say,
Yeah.
atheist.
Mhm.
And that went on for about 9 to 10 years.
Mm,
And I have nothing against atheism. I know plenty of people who are atheists and they're wonderful people. For me, it brought out the worst version. I had a terrible accident that happened to me, an assault even that happened to me, and that broke me yet again. I also was drinking heavily and I was using and sleeping around and being very unsafe in my life, just being the worst version of myself.
mm,
And then when that accident happened is when I realized something needs to change here. I have to make some sort of adjustments in this world. So I walked myself into a Buddhist temple. I sat down and I meditated. And I started to realize that the stories I was telling myself,
mm,
I had identified with them of anger, of division, of isolation,
mm.
which brings on sadness. And I thought that's what life was. I thought that's who I was. And then I realized those were just thoughts, feelings, and actions. And I started getting a bit of a space between me and those thoughts and feelings and actions. Once I had that bit of space, then I could start to find out who I really am. Because those thoughts, feelings, and actions, my belief systems were all previously given to me or were a rejection to the things given to me.
Yeah.
And now, since I had calmed the waters, I can do what I want. I can find the thing that works for me best. Now, I lived in a Western culture for so long, I assumed that if you're a Buddhist, you got to be a Buddhist and that's it. And then I found the Kalama Sutra.
Mm.
The Kalama or Kalama, depending on who you ask, Sutra or Sutta, depending on who you ask, is the story of the Buddha going to town and ends up in this town of Kalama. And one woman raises her hand and says, "We have sages coming from time and time again, and they're talking and telling us all the way. How do we know your way is the right way?" And the Buddha says, "Do not take it because I said it. Do not take it because an authority figure says it. Do not take it because your parents say it, or because tradition says it, or because the studies of the time say it, or because someone is demanding you say it, or because your ruler says it, or because. In life, take information that brings you peace inward and outward and discard the rest." At that moment, I realized I'm a Buddhist. Like there were other parts where I was like, I gotta find out more about this because these people are calm and peaceful and wow, and I never seen that much calmness and clarity and whatnot. But that,
Yeah.
when the leader says, "I'm not giving this to you, you
Yeah.
take what works, discard what doesn't, and just search for peace inward and outward," that is the ultimate level of humility, the ultimate level of non-self.
Mm.
And all of the things that I had been holding on to, I could let go. And then I could participate in the thing that brought me the most peace. And bit by bit, my atheism dissolved.
Yeah.
And I found Joseph Campbell. And
Yeah.
then I found the Upanishads.
Mhm.
And then once I started studying Joseph Campbell so much more, everything I read was the same because I wasn't looking at what they were saying. I was looking at the message that's being
Yeah.
metaphorized. It's a word now,
We'll make it.
metaphorized beyond the message.
Yeah.
There's something beyond that.
Yeah.
And I recognized that. And then I started seeing that thread. And I saw it in all of those myths and stories. Every one of those stories had every one of those practices and religions had a thread motif.
Yeah.
So, me as a musician, I found one of the oldest ones, which is Theseus and the Minotaur, where Ariadne gives him that thread to get back out of the labyrinth, and that thread is what connects him back to the world. So the metaphor there is that you are supposed to go into your own labyrinth of your mind, of your soul, your psyche, your heart, your emotions. You go in the center and find that Minotaur, which, by the way, Minotaur is a monster. The etymological word for monster is three different words. It's monstrum, monet, and monir. When you put them together, they define as to remind you to think about the divine omen out there and in here.
Yeah.
So a monster isn't just the scary thing out in the world. It's the one
Mhm.
living
It's the
within
one
you.
in here.
You
Yes.
go there first and
Yes.
you understand and amalgamate with that monster. And then the thread that connects you back out is consciousness.
Mm.
And that consciousness and that, excuse me, and that, that's right. And that consciousness symbolized as the thread in Greek myth, the word for thread is clue. Clew. And that's where we get the word CLUE from. So
Mhm.
it's a clue into the mystery of the inner and the outer world. And I named my band Caesar and the Clue for that reason.
Love.
That is my spiritual journey. And that is,
Well.
I gave you the storyline, obviously, the whole arc. My fundamental beliefs, what I think is a different way of, expressing it. But how I got here in my spiritual journey was the breaking in the physical side, and then the realizing that I don't have to, that I am in the realization that I am more than my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions.
That it just resonates so deeply with me because what you just said is was my experience, right? It's just in a different form. And I think that's so much my hope for people in the that we realize that I mean, it kind of goes back to that whole idea of us bumbling around in the bumper cars and not having any idea what we're doing, right? Like none of us know where we're going. And if we can open ourselves up to that inward and outward pushing and pulling and playing around and getting messy and wondering, I have such hope for us if we can if we are willing to do such a thing and navigate uncertainty that way.
Right.
Before we wrap up, I want to ask you one last question. Things right now, you know, are so messy. They're so full of division and chaos and fear, so much fear. Um, what do you hope for?
It's a big question. I hope for the inevitable wave of life. We look at everything in chapters and blocks.
Mhm.
And when we're in the middle of it, we assume it's forever.
Yeah.
But everything comes as ocean waves, which is to say, there's always a changing of tides, which is to say, in one wave, a piece of the water from the previous wave comes with it, and then when
Mm,
it crashes, some goes away.
mm,
And when the top of the wave is starting to dip over, the water under it is receding, going back the other way.
mm,
Let us not forget that every bit of progress that we have in the world does come with calamity, unfortunately.
mm,
Our job is to do the best we can to limit that amount of calamity. We drive faster cars, it gets us there quicker, but we get into car accidents. So what do? A seatbelt, car sensors, cameras. We do the best we can to limit the amount. And I think that, and I hope that on the other side of all of this division is waiting a cool and calm water. Because at some point, we will recognize that we are not a wave, we are the ocean,
mm,
which is a fundamental difference.
mhm,
In a practical sense, we've spent this entire time, and I've been speaking symbolically and mytholically, there's that word again, spiritually. I'm going to get very practical here. Stop watching crap news.
yeah.
Stop watching things that are going to make you feel angry or fearful. When you are reading some information, or you see a headline on social media or on the news, or someone's talking to you, or some sort of talking head is speaking, ask yourself this question. What I'm taking in here, what they're sharing with me, is it making me feel angry or fearful? If the answer is yes to either one of those or both, then you know what their intentions are. It is to continuously activate fear in you or anger in you, because if it bleeds, it leads. I'm not even here to blame them that they do that, because they're doing the same thing in their own life. They want that division also. So I don't even hold anger for them. I recognize that we live in a society where we need to be divided. We need to be mindful of the scary thing on the other side of the Serengeti from our ancestors. And that's a scarcity mindset. We live in an abundant time, though. Let us stop watching that stuff.
Mm,
Stop sharing it. Stop commenting on it. Stop giving it the time. Instead, you can find good news happening in the world. There's plenty of it. I send out a newsletter every month with 3 to 5 good things happening in this world that affects all of us. At CesarCardona.com, sign up on the newsletter. I will share that with you once a month. Two, there are good companies in the world, tons of
mm,
them. There's a whole company called B Corporation that has a framework for a company, a smaller company, or any company that for that matter, to make a profit and treat their employees well, and treat the environment well, and hold their investors or stockbrokers accountable ethically. And if that company meets the standards of B Corporation will give them a stamp or a sticker to go on their brick and mortar, or go on their product, or go on their website. You
mm,
can go to bcorporation.com, type in any genre you want: tea, household items, furniture, clothes, books, you name it. And it'll give
mm.
you a list of those places. And because we vote every 2 to 4 years with our pencils in a ballot, you're actually voting every day of your life with your dollars.
That's right.
And I
Right.
guarantee you, you make that pivot with your dollars, the people who give us the stuff will pivot too.
Yeah.
I'm not here to blame them. They're chasing dollars. I
Mm,
get it.
mm.
I will also say having money it does help things in the world. So
It sure does.
I get why they would want that. Let's stop seeing them as evil. Let's understand them again.
Yeah.
Before we want anything out there in the world to change, we got to start changing our own selves first. We got to lose the anger, lose the fear, and vote with our dollars.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. Where can people find you, my friend?
Two places, CesarCardona.com, my website. It has everything you need there. Feel free to reach out to me, contact me, email me. I respond to every single person. This is how you and I met. You messaged
Yes.
me on Instagram. I sent you a voice message. I talk to every single individual. It is a tiresome job, but it is absolutely worth it. And I will be present with each and every one of you, no matter who you are, where you stand. I want you to be seen, heard, safe, understood, and then activated to be the best version of yourself in the world. Secondly, my podcast, Beauty in the Break. Find my podcast there. Me and my co host, my partner, Foster Wilson, we host this thing together. It has been doing great. We have risen up to the top 3% of global listens. We are doing deep, heavy, heavy work. And I think that if somebody likes your show like this, or a show like this is actually happening, they'll like Beauty in the Break as well.
Oh, Beauty and the Break is great. I love it. I'm really enjoying it. So
Thank you.
thank
I appreciate it. Thank
yeah,
you. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I'm so grateful to you.
Thank you so much for your time. And to everyone listening, please be kind to yourself.
Yes, thank you everyone for listening. Once again, this is the Thinnest Veil podcast. I'm Dr. Melissa Bird, and I am really, really, really glad you are here. Oh, thank you so much.